Joining me now is Kunikka Lal, leader Congress from Mumbai, and also we have with us Chris Oton, South Asia Bureau Chief, AFP. Thanks very much for joining us here at NEWSX. Coming to you, Kunikka Lal, I want to ask one question from the entire Congress party. Why did it take so long for this terrorist who was convicted by the courts and even the highest court in 2004 to hang? Was there a lack of political will? Everyone's just alleging that.
I think one of the reasons, and I'm not an expert on this, but whatever I can sense is that one of the reasons that the delay was there was obviously because the very unity and diversity for which Mr. Afzal Guru was supposed to be hanged would have been threatened if at that time, because the situation was very delicate. There was a lot of international pressure on Kashmir on us. There was Pakistan had a lot of support, and if something like this had happened, and then if there was a law and order situation in Jammu and Kashmir, there would have been issues there, and we were quite soft at that point of time in terms of, we were rather not soft, that's the wrong word, we were very vulnerable at that time. And I think also there must have been some political compulsions in terms of, because at that time the Chief Minister might not have agreed, or he might have shown some kind of situation where he said that I cannot handle the law and order situation. And if you are protecting the unity and diversity of your country, and if by hanging somebody 4 years later or 5 years later, it's going to be saved, I think there's no harm. Even if you've hanged them 5 years later,
you're trying to
or 7
suggest
years
that
later,
just to,
as long as you have protected other people's lives.
In fact, coming to you, Kunikka, you know, death penalty isn't the best penalty. That's what some of the human rights activists have been suggesting, and we did get those kind of reactions as well. Though that has been totally overshadowed with the kind of sentiment this entire country is sharing, and also from countries abroad. People do believe that there should be strong action against terrorism. But do you think that death penalty is the best penalty?
I think for terrorism and for certain rarest of the rare cases, death penalty is a must. But obviously, as the gentleman just said, that there are about 400 people on death row, and they're obviously not going to be executed, because it's a very inhuman thing to do. But at the point, when you look at the crime that the person has committed, and if there are so many people who have been subjected to inhuman acts, then death penalty is a must, and it should be done. And it should be done because it sends a strong message that there's no more leniency, especially in the case of where somebody has threatened your unity and diversity, and where somebody is, the whole country is living in fear that anything like this is going to happen. You need to instill that confidence in the people. You need to send a good, strong message. And talking about human rights, you know, I really wonder sometimes that the human rights activists only go with the accused. What about the victims? I mean, don't they have any human rights?
All right, Chris, let me bring in Kunikka Lal here. Kunikka, you know, there have been examples in past here in India where terrorists have been given life imprisonments, and there has been further danger because of that. There were cases of hijacking of airplanes and terrorists terrorizing India and sort of threatening them that, you know, these people will be killed if you don't release our people. Is that why? Is that also one of the major reasons why these terrorists need to be given death penalty?
I think that is one of the reasons why we should look at death penalty for these kind of people, especially terrorists, because they operate in a conglomerate or in a huge cartel, and there's a lot of pressures, a lot of disturbances that they can cause, and that doesn't give a feel-good factor in the whole country, because everybody's all the time living in fear, and then they can hold you at ransom at any time. So I think if they commit a crime which is so unfair and unjust and so heinous, then they should also be subjected to that, especially when it comes to the unity and diversity and the security of a country.
Kunikka, now, you know, this brings us to...
I just want to...
Yes, go ahead. Kunikka?
I wanted to say that, you know, one of the major issues in Kashmir is that there are the youngsters who are being poached by these militant groups and being trained, and they're given money, and, you know, that also, this will instill a fear in them, and it'll be like, you know, this will be an example that this is what they ultimately end up happening to them if they get into these kind of terror outfits. So this will also be a deterrent for them. But this will be an example and a deterrent also.
Precisely, that point is rather important. Such sentences should be a deterrent for further such acts, so that next time anybody even thinks of that, they should think twice. But Kanika, we have in this country laws where the fast track courts are being used now essentially for bringing to books culprits of rape crimes and crimes against women. Then why not for such a severe act of terrorism? Do you think fast track courts should be brought in here as well?
Absolutely, they should be, but we first need to appoint more judges. We need to spruce up the judiciary system a little bit because we are running short of a lot of judges. There's so many cases. We need to. There's an overall need to improve the system. Now, when we talk about the fast track courts for juveniles or for sexual assaults, these kind of cases, the society has a big hand in creating these criminals as well. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why you should have a fast track court, because less time is wasted of the accused, and they get their punishment, and they finish the punishment. They come out absolutely changed people, and then they can get into the normal flow of society. But as far as terrorists are concerned, because it's such a huge, it affects the whole psyche of the country. Therefore, fast track courts would be very welcome in these kind of cases as well.
Absolutely, and we just hope Congress and the ruling government does take adequate steps to bring in more fast-track courts, and as you suggested, there is a shortage of judges. Maybe more should be appointed as soon as possible. Absolutely, the scale may have been different, but really the emotions were totally intense, because there have been many bereaved families here in Mumbai, in Delhi as well, and the bomb blast, not to miss so many of them. Yes, Kunikka, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think what Chris is trying to say, I mean, I don't think he's trying to demean or, put aside what has happened in India. But yes, if you're saying that we did not take, we were not soft on terror. But the point is that we had a lot of other compulsions, and you cannot compare India with America. America does not have so many hostile neighbors. America does not have an issue which is burning, where people are trying to grab a massive land from you in spite of having an agreement or a pact that has been signed many, many years ago. And America does not have too many infiltrators. In fact, they did nip it in the bud when, and they've got very strict immigration laws. The point here is that we as a nation, India as a nation, we have so many diverse cultures and religions and communities, that we have to look at everybody's sentiment firstly. Secondly, we have to look at our international image, because if we can start, we can start sending out messages to everybody whom we think is a prospective terrorist, and we catch him and we say, okay, we think you were involved, or certain, we have certain things against you, so we are convinced and we can hang people. But that does not work like that, and did not work at least in 2007. Today, the international world, the global world has realized and recognized that Pakistan is actually farming terror. And it is actually because they earlier probably didn't believe it until they caught Osama bin Laden in Pakistan, who's being sheltered there. That has
right.
really changed
Kunikka,
a lot
I
of
agree with you, but at the same time,
and
had US, I'm not comparing, everything about US with India, but had US known that Pakistan is the culprit, somewhere down the Pakistani soil, terrorism is being bred, which it is aware of now. But the moment it knows,
otherwise Pakistan was going in crying.
The moment it was known, they did attack Osama bin Laden then and there. They did not wait,
look at this, we want our Kashmir.
But we are slow at taking action. That's the only thing I'm trying to say.
Because look, I'll tell you, if you have a smaller country, a neighboring country, going to a bigger country and saying that, look, we want Kashmir, all we want is Kashmir, and we're supposed to get it, it's ours. And America had probably a diverse opinion about that, because they probably feel that, okay, some of them might feel that Kashmir should go to Pakistan, some might feel that it should not go to Pakistan, and therefore the reason for the terror. So they might not have been taking a stand, and also they did not believe, because Pakistan gave this impression that they are not the ones who are farming terror. But now that there's proof, and America found that proof. Thank God that America found the proof, because if anybody else found it, they probably would not have believed. And they found the proof and they took the remedial actions. So today we are in a stronger position. And therefore we have more courage.
Chris would like to come in here.
Internationally, when we go to the UN.
Right. Chris would like to come in here. But before I bring in Chris, let me get to our viewers a breaking news that's coming in at this hour. Perhaps you have a point there. But Kunikka, how would you react to it?
Yeah. I think that we should really not pay any attention to this, and as far as Kashmiris are concerned, and instigating or it being very inflammatory, or I think it's good that they've tweeted, because now in the international community they can see what's happening, and people can see that exactly how much we have been terrorized, or we have been we've been suffering because of this, and I'm sure that all this is going to take an effect, and it's going to have a global view about it. And as with regards to Kashmir, some point of time this was going to happen. As I said, in 2007, when the Supreme Court gave the judgment, people said, why didn't you hang him then? Because there was a very weak situation at that time. The CM was probably not very confident of being able to handle the law and order. We as a nation were not sure we would get the support. But this is a good thing that he's tweeted, and I'm sure that through your medium, I would like to tell the Kashmiris that they are Indians, and we don't need people from outside our country to protect them. They have complete protection. In fact, all the forces that are there, and all the whole system that has been put into place is there for their protection. And nothing is going to go wrong as long as they don't lose control.
All right. Well, Chris also has a point there, Kunikka. He's trying to suggest that these terrorist organizations, when their people are killed by those countries where they have committed these heinous and gruesome acts of terrorism, killed innocent people out there in those countries, when those people are brought to books, the terrorist organizations presume that they have been martyred, or they will be remembered for their acts. But that's exactly what's happening in this particular case as well. Those elements, those radical and separatist elements who've been supporting Afzal Guru's act, have actually seen him as a martyr. Of course, that's irrelevant for India and for all those people who believe in peace. But at the same time, do you think there are other ways to bring these culprits to book? In fact, there have been guests earlier who've been talking to me, and they suggested a multi-pronged strategy. They said the need of the hour perhaps is death sentence, but also we have to work out other ways as well.
For example, first of all, I want to say something. This is the only sales pitch that these people have to get these young boys into their fold. That you're a jihadi, you're fighting the war for God, and so this is the only. So they have to keep up that sales pitch. This is their selling. This is the sales pitch that they give to sell their whole ideology. So I can understand. Pardon?
And to boost their morale as well, so that more people join in their acts of terrorism, isn't it?
Yeah, so more people join in, and what we are trying to do here by giving a death sentence is deter people from joining such kind of organizations and send a message that this is what's going to happen to you. Now, if you are saying that it has to be multi-pronged attack, what kind of multi-pronged attack do you want? If you catch the guy and you try him and you find that he's guilty, you kill him, especially because it's against the whole nation. What is the multi-pronged attack that you can ask all the nations to unite, which everybody has. Globally, people have united against terror, and people who are staying out and who don't want to, they've also been forced to unite against terror, at least on the face of it. So there's no other multi-pronged way that you can, at least I can't see it.
Well, there is one way out. In fact, Kunikka, the format that US actually follows, for instance, in the case of David Coleman Headley, they haven't killed this man. He's been a very deadly terrorist, but they have, indulged in a pact with him, wherein he reveals all the inside stories, gives them information about these acts of terrorism, and tells them who are the other people involved in such heinous acts. And so they grant him life. Instead of giving him a death sentence, they give him 35 years of imprisonment. Those are the kind of preventive measures so that more such attacks don't occur.
No, but we spoke about this earlier, that these kind of things will always have a threat looming large over the nation. There'll be sort of ransoms, there'll be a lot of negotiations, there'll be a lot of things. We'll be held at ransom, somebody will just suddenly hijack a plane, and because unfortunately as I said, we have a diverse community and religions, and so we have to look at everybody's sentiments. In America, they're very, very strong and sure about what laws have to be followed. Unfortunately, in our country, this is one of the biggest problems, is we do not have a common civil code of conduct. Even if there is, we do not implement it. We have different laws for Muslims, different rules for Hindus. If it's a Christian, they appeal minority, or the Muslim community will say, oh, you know what, this is how we have things like that. So we have to have a uniform civil code of conduct. that if you do this, whether you're a Hindu, Christian, Muslim or whatever, this is what you are going to get. And there should be no appeal on the basis of I'm from a minority or I'm from a backward class. There should be no appeal where that is concerned. No politics should come into it. And fortunately for America, that is how it is. Even the opposition gets together and they fight it. Unfortunately, in our country, people do have a lot of politics played on these kind of issues.
Absolutely. In fact, it's all about the cultural diversity of India, and thus perhaps some of the worldwide recognized ways of dealing with terrorism may not be befitting here or appropriate here as far as Indian way of dealing with terrorism is concerned. But let's now go back to our guest, Kunikka. We did talk about what are the possible options here before India to deal with terror. But also, when we were talking about fast-track courts earlier, for rape instances, there have been set up. Why not for terror instances? Also, when we talk about committee reports like Justice Verma committee reports, we know for a fact that Justice Verma did submit many good options before the law, before the courts, systems that can be incorporated into the Indian law so that such cases of rape can be dealt with very severely. Why not such committees for the acts of terrorism?
Of course, there should be, absolutely, there should be committees like this for terrorism as well. And I'm sure that the Foreign Affairs Ministry or the External Affairs Ministry, they all must be thinking and pondering about it. But as recently you've seen that the whole nation was very angry about the rape and the Nirbhaya case, the Damini case, and so that was an immediate action that had to be done, that was required, and that's. I'm glad the Justice Verma committee, some of the points have been taken up as an ordinance. And laws cannot be made overnight, but yes, thinking, pondering, having a committee which thinks about, a multi-pronged attack to fight terrorism is very important, and it will be very welcome too.
All right, Kunikka, let me bring you in here. Well, that's a very neutral perspective we got from Chris. He's saying it will be going a bit too far by thinking that it's the politics of the whole matter that has pushed forward this issue. But when people accuse the Congress of such politicking around the issue, and that the political will was lacking for quite some time post 2004 when the Supreme Court had held this decision of actually executing this man Afzal Guru. Why so long? We have been talking about it earlier, but it's also about political will and the politicking. How do you look at this entire issue?
I think we should not really debate on why it took so long. There must have been a lot of other compulsions, as I discussed earlier, which I'm not an expert, so I can't even say whether there was, because this is all just a supposition. But the point is that it's happened, and unfortunately now for the BJP, there's one less topic to discuss. But I think there are a lot of mature leaders in BJP as well, and I think they have welcomed this very gracefully, and they should welcome it gracefully. With regards to whether this is a political decision, and it's really strange, because if they had not taken the decision, they were saying we were into vote bank politics and we were trying to appease the minority community, the Muslim community. Now that we've taken this decision, they are again saying it's politics. So now I don't know which community we're trying to appease. So it really doesn't matter. This is all just useless banter, and we should not get into the seriousness of this, because there is no seriousness. And it's a good decision that has been taken. May have been a little late for some people, but I think I understand that the reason for the delay. There could have been various reasons.
All right, there could have been various reasons. At least that's what Congress is saying at this point. But again, one comes to this question. Just before we wrap up very quickly, Kunikka, now that this move has taken place and a precedent of sorts has been set by the ruling government, how would you now take care of also the sentiments of people of Kashmir and make sure that such radical elements do not dominate an integral part of India, that's Kashmir?
I wanted to get back to one question that you had asked me, because that will connect with this. You said about multi-pronged ways of preventing terrorism. First of all, our basic system in our country of getting a ration card, that is so flawed, because there are people who come from outside of India, there are immigrants who come here, and there are political leaders who encourage them to get a ration card. They actually pay for their ration cards because they make them their voters. I mean, this is the height of betrayal of a country that any human being in a country can do. So we have to start streamlining that, and we have to really punish people who encourage immigrants to get ration cards. Even now I heard recently in our area some Aadhaar cards were being fudged. So this is where one of the first steps that we can take to not allow migrants to come in, and then they're the ones who are, they live a very poor or meager or very difficult lifestyle because they're trying to get a job, or they're trying to find their ways, and by the time they settle in they need money, and these are the people that are poached, and these are the people who have an Indian ration card or who have an Indian Aadhaar card. They might not be Indian, and they are the ones who really work inside the system and they build terror. Coming back to your question that you said, I mean, like, I think what is it that you asked me about? What was the last thing you asked me?
About people of Jammu and Kashmir and how they should be, their rights basically should be taken care of.
Now the people of Jammu and Kashmir, I think if they get affected, I think they are now beyond this because they know what Kashmir has suffered. They have seen what their youth has suffered. I think they're very mature, and I think that is one of the reasons why, if this decision was taken at this stage, because the government must have judged the situation, that I don't see there was an election. There was an election in Jammu and Kashmir, which was something which we didn't imagine would take place. That panchayati election, of course, after that there was an afterfall. Aftermath of that was also quite bad. But we are taking a grip of things. So I think the Kashmiris also understand that slowly things are changing, and they have to support the government, they have to support the system, and they have to support the country which they belong to. And I don't think that the youth really want this anymore. They want jobs, they want development, they want a future, and I think it's something we can contain as long as we don't fall prey to the outside forces, or our youth doesn't fall prey to the outside forces.
Absolutely, Kunikka. I second you on that. Peace and development is what this country should now be looking forward to, including Kashmir, a very integral part of India. Thanks very much for now, Kunikka, for joining us from Mumbai, and also Chris Attorn for joining us here with all those inputs. As we wrap up, let's get you what the lawyer of Afzal Guru, who represented him in the Supreme Court,